half the appliances in their house were turned on mysteriously overnight. Lights going on and off by themselves. Welcome to another episode of Paranormal TV, where we discuss the strange, weird, cryptozoology, ancient occult, missing persons, murder, witchcraft, poltergeists and such. So on today's episode of Paranormal TV, I've decided that I would delve straight into some of my and my partners and friends' occult experiences with summoning spirits and things that can go wrong, things that can go right, and things that don't happen at all. So one of my first experiences, and these are probably a little bit out of order, because I had met a bunch of guys that were local to me through various occult forums on Facebook and Reddit and such, that we decided that we would kind of join forces to see if we could get some results in summoning spirits. Now, before you go out and decide you want to just summon some spirits, I need to warn you that you need to know some spiritual kung fu before you get involved in this kind of thing, because things will happen. You need to be not afraid of the dark and not afraid of ghosts, and expect them. One of the first things that you probably should look at is perhaps getting some information. It took me a long time because I was brought up in a very religious household, with my mother being overtly religious in a kind of religious cult, that anything to do with what I'm about to show you was considered evil and the work of the devil, and to get involved in it would bring problems in one's life. So once again, I strongly recommend that you look up some reading material, and I'm not talking about just reading advice from forums and things like that. Get some really decent books. Before I took the plunge into attempting things, I'd watched lots of documentaries on occult stuff. Carol Poke Runyon, you can look him up on YouTube. Aleister Crowley documentaries. A lot of the Aleister Crowley stuff is a little bit tainted because he did get up to some mischief, but he was always kind of taking the piss. So some of the books, I guess this one kind of got me started with magic, and I highly recommend it. And also this book, when it shows up, Summoning the Spirits, Constantinos. So this episode I'll talk about one of my first, I guess you would say, poltergeist experiences, which was something that we had brought on ourselves. The group that I was working with was 3 other guys, and we did a bit of voodoo stuff and a bit of Golden Dawn stuff, and working from some books from very fringe authors. So I must reiterate, before you attempt any of this, or you probably shouldn't, just get the right information. You need to learn a ritual called the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram. So if you do run into problems, you can get rid of what shows up, and it doesn't always work. You also need to be working inside a holy circle. Here's an example of one. This is from a book called the Goetia, but there are many different books, many different rituals, and you should draw this on cement with holy chalk and perform a blessing ceremony reading Psalm 51. If you don't, you could attract some nasty things. Okay, moving on. This particular experience, and I've got many to share with you, it's just a brief one and kind of what happened from what we did. So after several what seemed to be unsuccessful attempts to summon spirits, sometimes demons. I'll get into the demon stuff towards the end of the video. But it didn't always work. Sometimes it did. Sometimes you thought it didn't work, but then you got a result of something that you asked for. So in practicing this particular ritual one night, the guys had come around on a Monday, and I was living in Gosford. This is about 10 years ago. I'd come up with the idea from one of a fringe author's grimoire or magical working book that the best way to communicate with spirits is to be able to see and hear them. Because sometimes you call up things and, like I said, you get results, but you never actually felt like you witnessed anything during the ritual performance. So one author suggested that basically you shouldn't be calling up angels or demons without the ability to communicate with them, because you might just piss them off. And that's probably a valid argument. So basically, to perform rituals and communicate with spirits, you have to meditate deeply and almost develop clairsentient, clear vision, and clairvoyant powers, I guess would be a good way to put it. So how do you then practice these powers without calling angels and demons of strong hierarchy? Like, you wouldn't go over to the Queen's palace and knock on the door and say, hey, I just wanted to see if you were actually real, because you'd probably be arrested. And a similar vein of thought goes with calling up spirits. Anyway, this particular author suggested that within a circle and facing west, I make sure I'm not facing west when I say this, lighting 2 candles, simply call the spirits of the dead. And it goes a little something like this. Spirits of the dead, wandering spirits, come out of your graves and shadows, appear here before me. So this particular night, they did that. And it's funny because one of the guys he has a really high paying job, and he was paying $1,000 a month to a meditation group that seemed like a bit of a cult religion to be able to enhance his spiritual powers. One of the other guys was a priest in training at the time, who had studied overseas in an ashram and had been to Buddhist temples and travelled a few places of the world, and also done some other magic of his own accord. And another friend of mine, a little bit closer to my age, had studied witchcraft and the teachings of Thelema and Aleister Crowley, and was quite proficient. So after we'd called the spirits and facing west, and lit 2 candles, all of a sudden, at the back of the room, these balls of light, approximately the size of a grapefruit, or a small cantaloupe if you're American, had shown up. They were blue electric balls of light, and it still gives me chills. And they were lined up, and they were kind of like doing this. They were all at kind of navel height, which makes me think of in Kung Fu and Chinese medicine, they talk about the Dantian, which is the chakra just below the navel, 3 fingers below your navel, being the seat of your energy or your vital essence. And that's where they lined up, these 4 electric balls of light. And they were kind of transparent, and all of my friends had been practicing to attempt to see the spirits. We didn't actually hear them say anything. But my younger priest friend had said, I see three. I'm nudging. I'm saying, what do you see here? And my young priest friend said, I see three balls of light that are blue, glowing blue, and a small child, female girl in the corner, standing in rags, and she's crying. My other witchcraft buddy said, I see the four balls. And I didn't, I'm saying, do you see that? And I said, what are you seeing? And my witch buddy, I don't want to mention names because they might see this and they might get upset about it. I know a lot of people like to keep their practices hidden. And he says, yeah, I see four balls of light. And the guy that was spending all this money on his meditation group said, I don't see anything. And that's sort of just how it is. Anyway, after we had all attempted to communicate with these balls of light as they stood before us, and they didn't really do anything spectacular. They didn't go around in circles or anything. They just sort of hovered there. We then thanked them for showing up and then asked them to leave and dismissed them and performed the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. That concluded the ceremony. We all went out and had a glass of wine. So, moving on, the next day I'm sitting in my study, and the room that we had performed this ritual was, I guess in that place was to the left of me, sort of at the back, sort of back left. I remember reading some stuff on the computer and I want to reference a book. So I've gone out to reference this book and opened the door and found the light to be on. And I said, I swear to God, I had turned that light off. Anyway, maybe something had got the better of me and I'd forgotten for some reason. I turned the light off and then just continued with what I was doing. So the next morning, I was awoken at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was a hot night. And at the time, I was working nights, so I had one of those pillar fans with the 3 buttons on it. And my partner Louie next to me, I wake up and I'm hot. The fan is off, so I give her a nudge in the ribs. Say, "Hey, Louie, that fan's off." So she kind of leans out, reaches out of bed, and clicks the fan back on. And then exactly an hour later, just after getting back to sleep, the fan is now off again. This time it's been turned off at the power point, which then I couldn't sleep. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's something here. So I get up and the air conditioner's on, the TV's on, the coffee machine's on. And this was after we had performed that banishing ritual. So this time I did it with a bit more intent, understanding the nature of the occult with the elements, the earth, air, fire, water, using holy water, incense, salt for earth. And then it went away. So that's what happens if you don't know what you're doing. Well, maybe I did know what I was doing, but because they were kind of earthbound elemental spirits, I thought that maybe, well, the banishing ritual of the pentagram is earth pentagram based. That should have worked, but maybe it didn't because they weren't of a higher order. Because they're here anyway, they decided they'd probably just hang around and check me out. So nothing really bad happened, but I was concerned that, damn, what if these things turn the stove on or, burn the house down? But anyway, I'll do another video shortly on another experience. But that's it for now. Please like and subscribe, and I'll post a Reddit link so that you can join our Reddit channel and also our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/paranormal TV. And look forward to talking to you again shortly.